Welcome to the Doherty County Board of Commissioners meeting with your chairman, Christopher S. Cohilas. Your commissioners include, from District 1, Commissioner Ed Newsom. From District 2, Commissioner Victor Edwards. From District 3, Commissioner Clinton Johnson. From District 4, Commissioner Russell Gray. From District 5, Commissioner Gloria Gaines. And from District 6, Commissioner Anthony Jones. Also joining us is your County Administrator, Michael McCoy, Assistant County Administrator, Scott Addison, County Clerk, Joanne Ware, and County Attorney, Spencer Lee. Thank you for joining your Doherty County Commission meeting.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Go ahead and call to order the Doherty County Commission regular meeting set for August 16, 2021. Begin with the roll call. Note for the record that all commissioners are present and in person. I would ask for everyone to stand for the prayer and the pledge. I'm going to ask Commissioner Edwards to lead us in the prayer this morning.
Bow our heads. Father God, we come to you this morning and saying thank you for allowing us to get up this morning. Thank you, Lord, for watching over each one of us, our family members, each one of the people that are present this morning, their family members. Lord, we ask you to guide us this morning in all of our decisions, that we are the leaders for this community, but be in the midst of our decision in every area. And we thank you again, Lord, for being our God and Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We have a large amount of business to get done today, so we need to go ahead and get to work. Let's begin with the minutes. Consider for action the minutes of the July 19th regular meeting and July 26th work session. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Tax, public hearing. Those wishing to speak for or against this item will have signed up on the sign-up sheet located on the table in the rear of the chamber. The agenda item for purposes of the record is proposed tax increase of 0.35% for the countywide digest and the proposed tax increase of 0.30% for the special services district. The millage rates remain the same as last year. The countywide millage rate is 15.569 and the special services millage rate is 9.1730. And we have two people that have signed up. First is Dr. Amanda Green. Good morning, Ms. Green. Dr. Green. Go ahead and step forward. Good morning. How are you? Good. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to speak against the
Yes,
taxes
ma'am.
being raised up. I was wondering why couldn't we use some SPLOST money? Because I was researching and I found out that a certain amount of money from SPLOST could be used for taxes. Also, I just wanted to make some points real quick because I am against it because, for one thing, some of us can't afford our taxes to keep going up. Put myself an example, I paid like $7,200 a year for mortgage, but yet $5,000 for taxes. Mm-hmm. And that's ridiculous to be paying that kind of money. But it seemed like we could come up with some kind of strategies, like we hire people to come in to do everything else, to figure out how to fix everything from the police department to whatever. But when it comes down to needing money to pay different things, and we always raising the homeowners' taxes. And that's why people are steadily leaving Albany and we have a bunch of empty lots because either they can't pay the taxes on their homes and they just walk away, or they're being taken and then nobody buys them, and then we have to come in later and spend money to just clean them out. So in Albany, we have a bunch of just empty lots because we're study raising taxes too much. And it should be some kind of strategies, like I talked to Thomasville, and their strategy was to raise, to put everybody on the light bill, but they don't have to pay that tax anymore either. Just straight out property tax, causing people to lose their taxes. When the taxes go up, our mortgages go up. And so we need some kind of strategies for maybe y'all to hire somebody, do something different for us as taxpayers, as homeowners, to not everything always falls on the burden of us, as if it's a punishment to get a home, to buy a home. And then it's a punishment if we fix on our home, the tax is gonna also go up for us to fix on our homes. So it just seems like it's some kind of strategies, like y'all could just come up with some kind of techniques, hire somebody, get a group of people, appoint some people to sit down and strategize, appoint some people in the community to strategize, because instead of Albany giving, a Doherty County period, giving the tax people, the homeowners, some kind of relief, like the circuit breaker, the circuit breaker, if your income is a certain amount, your taxes are set differently. So you got all these different cities and states that's doing different things to help the taxpayers. But in Albany, instead of helping us, it's always a raise to keep us down. I don't even want to do anything to my house, but I would love to. But then I know the taxes are going to go up. So is there anything differently we can do besides raising taxes? I wish, I really want y'all to think about just different things that can help us, because when we look at the census, Albany people left, Lee County got more people, some are ours. But again, there was a big uproar before about the taxes going up, and people said they were going to leave, and they did leave. But as commissioners, as the city of Albany, as people that's over us, it would help us some if you could sit back and try to come up with some kind of strategies besides always raising our property taxes for us, because we want to keep our homes, and we pay a lot for our homes. We don't want to have to lose them because the mortgage keeps going up.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, but then that's what I want to say.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
But let me say this too. Let me ask this question about back to the SPLOST. That in November 1996, it was said that we can get a referendum for SPLOST for taxes if the people say so. Is that possible?
To answer your question, it's a great question, Dr. Green. SPLOST dollars are not allowed to be utilized to supplement the general budget. They're not allowed to fund operations. They're only allowed to fund capital expenditures. So for things like building buildings or vehicles and things like that, they're not allowed to pay for salaries. They're not allowed to pay for health insurance. They're not allowed to pay for operational expenses. But it's a great question. And
after doing my research, though, there is a certain amount of, I'm going to research some more.
Sure.
But there is a certain amount of money that is allowed to go toward taxes, period. I mean, whether it's the education taxes, but it's in the SPLOST. Like I said, in 1996, November 96, it was said that we could do the referendum if the people agree to do SPLOST to pay part of the property taxes. Like I said, I'm going to research some more and ask some more questions and call around some more.
Sure.
But as my research, it did show that there is a certain amount of property taxes that could be used.
I think what you'll find in your research is that in particular in Dardy County, particularly after, during the time, you'll remember when the bubble, the real estate bubble was, and then it burst. There was a larger component of the general budget, which was called CIP, which was the Capital Improvement Fund, which is where property taxes that were levied against the property owners like you, me, everybody that's in this room, everybody that's here pays those taxes.
Right.
There was a component of that was called CIP. To a large degree, those funds, which came directly from the taxpayer in the form of property taxes, have been greatly diminished and have been supplanted or replaced by SPLOST dollars. Those capital improvement funds which were solely previously borne by the property tax owners, now are largely being paid by sales tax, which we know, at least historically speaking, that a large percentage of the sales tax dollars that come into our community actually come from outside, because we have folks from Lee County, Baker County, Mitchell County that come in here that they may buy some ice cream, may go to the mall, and what have you. So I think what you'll find in your research is that the component of the budget that it was capable of replacing, and your point's very well taken, is the capital improvement component of the budget. It is not, however, legally allowed to replace things like salaries and paying for benefits and operational expenses. It's allowed to do things like pave roads, fix sewers, buy fire trucks, build buildings and things of that nature. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yeah, let me ask one more question then.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Why are we raising the taxes now? Are we trying to pay some more salaries? Why are we raising the taxes?
Well, I think, I don't want to speak for everyone. I think what you'll find is actually the millage rate is actually staying the exact same. And so what happened is the value of the mill in our community actually went up because the value of our property tax digest actually went up incrementally. So what happened, according to the numbers and as I understand it, is that the value of the average home overall over the course, if you look at the community as a whole, actually went up. So the real estate value or the tax digest actually went up. So no one here has advocated for a millage increase. It has actually stayed the same. But years and years and years ago, Governor Roy Barnes passed a law. I don't remember the name of the law, but it basically said if the value of the mill goes up and it affects essentially a property tax increase because of the millage actually going up, you still have to advertise that and notify the citizens. And I believe, someone's going to have to correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have the information in front of me, that net increase, I think, on a $100,000 home is about $2. And I recognize that every dollar does count. And I pay the same taxes that you do, Dr. Green, as does everyone else here. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Gaines?
Yes, please. Is it okay for someone to sit down and talk in detail to Dr. Green? Can we, I don't know what district she lives in, but if she's in my district, I would certainly be happy to sit down and talk to her. But if someone can talk in detail after she does her additional research, we'd be happy to do that, right?
I think that would be very fine.
Okay, so if you would call, someone can sit down and talk with you in detail about how SPLOST interacts with our property taxes and what the laws are regarding that, okay?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
just give us a call.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Green. It was a very good presentation, too. Thank you. All right, next, Mr. Wright. Good morning, Mr. Wright.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We want to talk about a couple of things to kind of straighten something out and answer the question that Dr. Green raised. Again, this is about the backdoor tax increase, which is what Reverend Roy Barnes called it. At the time, State Representative Winfrey Dukes was the floor leader, so I know a little bit about this. And it is an increase. The problem is, we have to be honest with people. Now, you have a handout there, and this is just the second public hearing. Why? Because you took an oath of office, and the law requires you to hold 3. The affiant came here on August 9th at 5:58 p.m., and everybody was walking out the door. Now, there are 3 ways we can settle that. First of all, the affiant will take a polygraph that staff and legislators left here at 6 o'clock. Now, I'll take a polygraph, and then we can look at the tape to see you leaving. And then we can go to your car and pull that black box to show what time you left. So when you're taking over office, there's something in law called mens rea. And if you ask Mr. Lee and you ask Attorney Cohilas, it basically means you intended to do wrong. Now, nobody told you to do this backdoor tax increase. You chose to do that, and we advise against it. Now, we'll get to the point of order today. Dr. Green raised a question about can SPLOST be used? The answer is yes, but it is specialized. We already do that. It's called MOST. That's that dollar that's permanent in our capitalization formula, M-O-S-T. It's a permanent SPLOST tax supposed to mitigate the increase. The problem is we got 35, 40% waste, all of the contracts that come through here, and when this event began to transpire, we sent 5 people to the tax office. And one of them, you may know the radio D jockey, Mellow Mike. There was a Vietnam veteran who was over the age of 60, and he came down here and they gave him the same price. Now, he was 8 years behind, he knew that, but the pandemic is every day in the black community in America. You may not know that, but that is why. Now, he got 10 different answers, and one of the things we told Miss, I don't know if Miss Collier Josie or Joseph Collier, but we said it was made there, so you can ask her. We told her to disaggregate the data by year because there was a 33% decrease in the taxes when you raised it back in 2017. So whatever rate, which should have been 12, 5, 6, 9, was in place, their taxes had to be 33% lower. They sent them things about how the world, a piece of property only valued at $30,000, you go owe $12,000 in taxes on it. This means it's either a lie or somebody's cheating. Now, I sent 5 people down here. My name is on the documentation that I sent to them, and that's what happened. You left here at 6 o'clock. We can pull the tape. We can look at the clock. We can look at the media person that was here. Now, you need to hold another hearing. You do what you want to do with that. Let's look at page 2. And again, Dr. Green, it's MOST, municipal optional sales tax. It is permanent. The problem is people keep making statements that people from New York and New Mexico come here and pay sales. Nobody don't drive here from Leesburg. They go online and buy things. And when you go online, the taxes go to the county where you live. So we're not getting on more tax than all these 13 counties that make up District 10 for where we are. It's being dispersed out. Now, we gave you a presentation that showed 50% of the contracts that you let, that the city let, that the Board of Education let, go to New York and New Mexico. How in the world your economy is going to grow? The reason we had a difference between 2021 and 2022 is because of that gas pipeline and the property they own. That's the only reason, because there was a $9 million increase between 2021 and 2022. And we gave you that information on last Monday when we came here. We asked Ms. Bristol, would she take the document? Because you shouldn't be, see, when you post something in the newspaper, you're supposed to be there 15 minutes before it happened and up to 15 minutes after. You don't leave before it even starts. It's men's race. Now, that may not mean anything to you. On page 2, we point out some of the other issues. The Doherty County, like the city, spend 50% of contract dollars for firms outside the county. So that's one thing. When we look at that, the increase that you're talking about, we went back and we recalculated, it's about $150,000. Now, if you had not given Ms. Van Drake that $100,000, you wouldn't have had to do that. Ms. Van Drake come in here and said, not gonna do anything. That's why 12,000 people left, like Dr. McIntyre had told us, and we brought that to you to show you. People not leaving just to be leaving, they're leaving because of no opportunity that needs high cost. That's on the first paragraph. Look at the second paragraph. That's what we did at documentation. We figured out All you had to do was change the millage from 15559. You change that third digit to 4. Then you wouldn't have to hold these hearings. Because if it's as the chairman assert, if that Ms. Collier Josie assert, it will override and you'll still end up with more money if you had just followed, if you understood the dynamics, especially on the Gatsby accounting.
Mr. Wright,
Who is that?
Commissioner Jones.
It sounds like you run behind the Lord.
I'm right here, Mr. Wright.
You coming up from New York? I thought you was in New York. Okay.
Our tax director name is Ms. Shauna Josie.
I told you, I didn't know what.
Well, okay, I'm just letting you know her name is Shauna Josie.
Okay, understood. But for your information, I repeat that twice. I did not remember whether it was Shauna Josie or Collier Josie.
Shauna Josie, that's her name. Thank you.
Well, I see you taking 2 minutes of time, so I'm going to add that to it. Look at the second paragraph. That's where we did the calculations for you. Look at the amount of dollars in the third paragraph. Now, on the bottom of the second page, we point out something there. Executive Order 13985, that's the ARP plan. That document is 602 pages. Well, that's where we get all this money from the pandemic, American Rescue Plan. On the last 2 pages, you're going to see why that's important. On page 3, when we look at Executive Order 13, we point out the American Rescue Plan. What happened on May 28th, the President of the United States and the Congress, the United States Senate voted 94-2. Those 8 Chinese that was killed there in Atlanta 3 or 4 months ago at the Massaui Parlor, we wanted to show you how this thing worked. What they did, that legislation, there are all kinds of tricks in that American Rescue Plan, but they gave the survivors, the 8 Chinese survivors, their family got $5.5 million apiece. So we called them members of the House, we called them members of the Senate. And so why you didn't do anything for the 9 African Americans that were killed in Charleston? Because see, the difference was in Charleston, the guy that came there said he wanted to start a race war. The man that killed the people there in Atlanta, they couldn't figure out what his intentions were. So if anybody should have been eligible, the 9 African Americans that was killed at the church there in Charleston. You need to see how the dynamics of this thing goes. So we point that out there in the second paragraph. Now look at the calculations of the third paragraph. We've already done this for you. Dr. Green raised a question about bringing some experts out of town. I've been in the classroom 35 years, teaching 7 or 8 different areas. And they use the same books in New York and New Mexico that they use here. Sometimes they may be 2 years older. Sometimes it'll be digital. So don't misunderstand and think someone has to come here from Chicago and do bookkeeping, because they do not. You're paying somebody $300 an hour to drive down here and $300 an hour to go back home. And I could do that in 30 minutes, what they're doing in 6 hours. So that's what that third paragraph is about. Let's go to the next page. There you see the very first line is the amount of money, $140,000. And we look at that. Somebody came here and said, well, the reason your tax went up because of inflation. Last Monday, we gave you information showed that the only organization in the United States that can calculate inflation is the United States Department of Labor. We gave you a handout on that. That handout showed it hadn't been a 1% increase. When we worked at Firestone, I was the union chief. We got a 25-cent an hour raise every time the CPI changed by 2/10 of 1 cent. I did that for 17 years, so I know a little something, but may not know as much as you, but I know a little something about that. You cannot go and make these assertions out here, don't have anything to back them up. That's why I brought you 4 pages last week to show there was no inflation, to validate that falls back to a tax you was trying to float. And that's why I came back last Monday to show you again. Now, look at the third paragraph. That's what we mentioned Mellow Mike. Call Mellow Mike, he'll tell you what his experience was when he went to the tax office. Call the Vietnam veteran and the person who had worked out the Marine base. This guy worked at the Marine base for 20 years, and he got $30,000 value of profit, and he's paying $12,000 for it. That cannot be right. Now, look at the fourth paragraph. The other reason we're having all these problems and have to grasp at everything is because I go by Commissioner Newsom's office every morning, go by Chairman Collier's office 4 or 5 times a day. When Jeff Senior here, I go by his office 10 or 12 times. We come in here every time the sheriff want a new Ford F-150, we paying $50,000 and $60,000 like we are somewhere in California on those hills, or in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where it's hills. We don't need no F-250, no F-350 like these people driving brand new, $70,000. All you had to do was go there when they have these auctions and bought vehicles that been used for display and for people to take a car ride to see if they were interested in the vehicle, paying $80,000. Now, if you give every one of them a lie detector to see if every new truck they bought, ask Commissioner Newsom how many F-150s he got out there to do service work. Ask Mr. Collier how many BMWs he got out there to do service work. You go by Jeff Senior's office, he got 100 vehicles out there, not one of them is on F-150. So why would you do something different with your business and then come down here and spend money like somebody's record, paying $6,000 and $7,000 for a truck, and wonder why people leave and we don't have any money? You're only 4 meals away from capping out where you cannot increase the taxes anymore. What happens then? You go into default. That's something you got to understand about gathering. You go into default, then you're forced into receivership, because it tells the world you don't know how to manage your business. Now, look at the 5th paragraph there. We pointed out Chairman Jeff Senior got 100 vehicles, all of them these little aura vehicles, something like that. He don't have no F-150 or 250. I looked at that on record. One time you spent $2 million on just trucks. And then talking about we need money. Then the sheriff come in, you give them a $3 million raise, and they're already getting a raise to the ARP. I mean, that kind of stuff is reckless. Now, let's go to the next phase. All right. Go with me, if you will. I think it should be page 5. You'll see a picture of President Joe Biden when he signed the executive order 1395 giving the survivors of the 8 Chinese massacre $45 million, and the 9 African Americans that Dylan Roof went and killed. You know what they said about that when we called all of the members of our delegation? Said that is bad. You know, the 1964 Civil Rights Act addressed that. It said it had to be equal. Otherwise, it's illegal. So that's a lot to think about, but what we're going to do, now you have information, you need to have another hearing. Again, you do what you want to do. That's what the city do. They make their own laws. And you're not far from that. You do what you want to do. But you cannot post something in the paper and then leave here before it starts. What would happen if Congress called a hearing and then the delegates left when the public was coming in? I've been in classroom 35 years. Every time I got it, they told me, you got to be in your classroom 30 minutes before the student be there, and if they need assistance, you got to stay there 30 minutes after. And then you got to give them 2 hours every week. You got to have 2 hours of time to satisfy the needs of the student. So that is the core. Something you have to do, but remember, it's MENSRHEA. I think that's a Latin or French would mean a guilty mind or intent. See, intent is formulated in the law that if you manifest it in your brain, you're going to eventually do it. That's what it means. So, does that mean you want to cheat the people? You think about it. We'll stop here. Now, you know we got another presentation. Then we're going to come back to you on, I think it's August 30th, to finish that. Because Commissioner Gaines gave the curveball, and we now, see, that guy that come here from Atlanta getting the $600 an hour, he's not doing all this for you for nothing, as we are. We're going to show you some of the things we've been doing on this new SBA Target Advance. Thank you so much for listening anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
All right. Any other folks that wish to speak on the tax public hearing at this time? Okay. Let's move on to delegations. This is where the commission will hear comments on those items pertaining to Dardy County for which a public hearing has not been held or scheduled. We ask everyone to be brief to the point and considerate of time for others. The first is Tax Director Shauna Josie and Tax Collections Supervisor Kimberly Bayless present to update the commission on the 2021 delinquent tax sale.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us here today. We're here today. Kim Bayless will be presenting our 2021 delinquent tax sale, which is the 2020 delinquent and prior taxes from our tax sale. It was a success. We had pretty good turnout. Of course, it was very, very hot, but we did make it through it, and we think we did turn out pretty successful. And Kim will present you the statistics now. If you have any questions, she'll be happy, or we'll be happy to answer any at the end of her presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to really briefly go over the statistics and the results from the tax sale. Again, just to reiterate, this is our 2021 tax sale that we held on August the 3rd, and it covered the 2020 taxes and all prior unpaid tax years. We took a total of 292 properties to tax sale this year. Out of those, we sold about half of them. 231 were in the incorporated area, and we had 61 in the unincorporated area. We sold 30 of the parcels that we took in the unincorporated area, and 111 in the incorporated area. The totals that we have here as far as the taxes collected in the unincorporated area, $83,224.68, and in the incorporated area, $245,163.48. So that total of taxes that were collected through this delinquent sale was $328,388.16. As you can see, we had a number of competing bids, which resulted in an excess of $857,281.34. Are there any questions?
I do have a question.
Mr.
Ms. Bayless, dig a little bit deeper in that for me. You're saying that we received $328,000 in taxes, but we have an excess in bids of $857,000?
That's correct.
Explain that to me a little bit more.
What happens is when we collect the taxes, well, that's what we start the bid at, is taxes and fees due. And then any overbids, if there's competing bids, any overbids become an excess, and it's put into a fiduciary account.
But we do receive the excess.
The county does not receive the excess. We put them in a fiduciary account. Per Georgia Code 4845, the excess funds can be claimed by the record owner of the property at the time of the tax sale, or whoever holds a priority security deed, any kind of interest or claim, recorded equity interest or claim.
Good deal. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Understood.
So one quick question, just following up. So out of the 292 properties that were taken, I know there is a large number of properties that, we've tried to sell and are kind of on a dead property list.
Right.
If you were to aggregate the taxes and fees due on those properties, do you have a ballpark of what that amount would be?
I don't. I can tell you how many unpaid parcels we have total in the county, and I can tell you what the total of all of those taxes are. But as far as the ones that may or may not be marketable, I couldn't break that out for you. But currently, right now, for the 2020 tax year, we're at 99.37% collected. So we have about $553,000 that's uncollected for the 2020 real estate taxes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, question. Say, for example, could you walk me through an example of if someone's property was sold at a tax sale? Could you walk me through the process of those folks regaining their property back after the tax sale? Can you walk me through that to make sure I get a clear understanding? I think I understand it, but I want to make sure.
Absolutely, yes, sir. What happens is they have 1 year to redeem the property. What they'll do is they would contact the purchaser at the tax sale, and they would have to pay them the amount of their bid plus 20%. Now, after that year, that purchaser can cut off the right of redemption, but if they don't, they can still redeem the property. And what happens if they do redeem the property, then the purchaser who receives a tax sale deed from us would file a quitclaim deed, and that property would go back into the name that it was in at the time of the tax sale.
Is it very complicated?
No, sir, it's not a complicated process. I mean, basically, we provide them with the name and the phone number and the address of the person that purchased their property at tax sale, and they contact them and just tell them they want to redeem the property, and they can purchase it back for the amount of their bid plus the 20%.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Gaines?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
please. Is there anything in these figures or any other information you may have that would rebut the notion that our property owners walk away from their property because of taxes?
I wouldn't be able to speak on that, ma'am.
Okay.
That I get the collections from the assessor's office, and I
Okay.
think that would be more geared towards the tax assessor's office.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Thank you very much. Very good presentation.
Thank you.
All right, next delegation is Mr. Wright, President, the continued discussion of building capacity, programs for small businesses, and other concerns.
Chairman and Commissioner of the Public, I'm sorry to have to keep coming before you, but you got to understand you're not paying me. What I want to briefly go over with you is what we are doing now. I'm not going to waste your time. Let's go to, when everyone get caught, let's go to page 4 and we'll show you what we're doing. Now, all these other organizations, the Census Bureau released the data, so you already know when everybody come here and talk about, we're going to, they don't do anything. You lose 12,000 people. Now, somebody either being lying or they're being reckless with the truth. 12,000 people not just walk away from you doing all these great things. They just come over here, and because of fiat, you give them money. So on page 4, this is an example. We told you we assisted 2,500 of these businesses. Each page represents $700,000. Now, that $700,000 is the gross amount that they had to represent on their tax return. Now, the validation process that the SBA used, now it's up to them and the bank. We didn't have anything to do with that. The SBA set these guidelines, and the guidelines basically is this. Whatever that number you see there to the right by that business owner's name, if they got $20,000, that means they reported that they made $120,000. Now that's on them. We didn't have anything to do with that. They come and then they tell us, and it was a lot of copycat too now. What I'm saying is, you go and help one person, he go and tell 100. So everybody come out with the same model. Do you understand how that works? And what I'm saying is the SBA and President Trump are responsible because they're the ones who set this thing up. What they did is that for every dollar you made, we're going to give you 20 cents. Now, the other caveat to that is it's not clear. And when we went back and researched the guidelines, the SBA and President Trump never did determine. Now, this is based on a 1040 Schedule C. If they did based on 941, The calculation would be the same, but the amount applicable FICA and Medicare taxes would be different. So you get, it's really a little bit more than 20 cents for every dollar. I think it's like 0.2013 or something like that. But it's easy to deal with. You get 20 cents for every dollar you spent in payroll. You don't get it for anything else. 20 cents is your rebate or your credit or your stimulus payment for being a small business owner. So each one of these sheets represent between $720,000 and $750,000 of the 2,500 people that we assisted. Now there was a couple other things going on. This whole thing, the appropriation bill under this, it was a little over $1.5 trillion because they went back 2 or 3 times. Remember, we had round 1 for 2019 tax filing, and then we had round 2 and round 3 for 2020 tax filing. Everything was based on either a 941, you still got the 0.20% of each dollar for payroll. If you file a 1040 Schedule C, what the SBA and what President Trump did, they decided, not we, I didn't have anything to do with that. They decided you could use either line 7. If you're familiar with the 1040 line 7 for Schedule C, line 7 is what was your gross revenue. So people got slick and they understood the higher what was on line 7, the more of a rebate they could get back. We didn't have anything to do with that. President Trump and the SBA set those guidelines up. But that's what this is. We did 2,500 of those. The banks around here, they all together there were 5 million. For 5 million of these loans, $1.5 trillion. We found out that these people out here on Westover and Old Dawson Road, that bank there, South People or something like that, they did so many. You know what they were doing? They were doing the churches. So they copycat that. One preacher go in there and say, well, and the church may only be paying them $10,000. I don't know how they figured it out, but people, you cannot beat the ingenuity and improvisation that people have once they see there's a gateway open, especially when you're in a ghetto, almost like environment. It's just going to happen. Now, that's the program that we finished. The next page, this is what we're working on currently now. You see it has Target, EID, Advanced, and Supplemental Program. Again, this is President Biden, Vice President Harris, and the SBA. What they did, they looked at it and they found out, as we told you before, do you know that African American owned business, and we gave you that data, they claim, now when I say they, I'm talking about the Census Bureau and the Internal Revenue Service, that there are only 4 million minority-owned business in the United States. Chinese got twice that. The Mexican got twice that. And I'm saying, we've been here 500 years. You know, something got to be wrong somewhere. The Chinese got more businesses in the United States than any other ethnic group. Now, whose fault is that? But anyway, when we looked at the data and got the reports back, out of the $1.5 trillion, African American owned business only got 1.5%. Now, we brought you that information, showed you. There were 400 loans that were made in just for $350,000 up to $5 million. There was only one, and the question was that one that was African American owned. Now, some of you say it was, we're not going to get into that. But anyway, this Target Advance, the reason for that, EIDL, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, is just an acronym. It stands for Economic Injury. That's what the EI is, Economic Injury. The DL is Disaster Loan. The target, and get this, the target is highly impoverished geographical areas in the United States where minority business exist. Those are the only ones who qualify. You have to be in a highly impoverished zone to qualify. Before you can even apply, as we explained to the clerk, it's by invitation only. The only way you can apply for this money is the SBA had to give you a claim number. You take that claim number and you bring it to a Framtech or some of these others. The SBA has authorized a $2,500 processing fee for this, but the beneficiary gets $15,000, and they do not have to pay it back. The first thing you have to do to qualify, you have to have a claim number, and the only SBA can give you that claim number. We have been sending some people out to the SBA office out there on Westgate and ask them to clarify some things because it's very horrendous. What you have to do is you have to take 3 years of tax returns and then put them into an Excel spreadsheet to be able to document that you have 30% loss in revenue between 2019 and the advent of the pandemic. Then you have to have a business-only checking account. The problem with that is there is a caveat there. Somewhere, and I do not know who came with this formula or why they want to do it, but I guess it's to weed people out. They look back at March of 2020 and April of 2020, they look at 8 weeks. Now they want you to go and pull your bank account records for that time period to calculate that 30% reduction in your revenue. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's going to cost you a little money to do that. Because all these things going digital. If you are not downloading, say, those files, sometimes you go to the bank and they want $20 for each month and that kind of stuff. So, but you have to have 3 years of documented. You have to have a business-only bank account. Well, the Internal Revenue Service rule basically is if you mix or commingle business and personal expenses, the IRS claims that that is a hobby. You cannot mix personal revenue with business revenue and get away with it. You can do whatever you want to, just like the city and county school board do a lot of times. But anyway, the target is the highly impoverished area. So that's why you have the economic injury disaster loan. We do these workshops twice a week. We do them at the Arthur K. Williams Conference Center at 230 South Jackson Street. We do them from 11 until 1, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday. We pay all the expense. It takes about $600 to do each one of these workshops. Let's look at the next page.
Mr. Wright, I have a question for you.
Yes,
Are
sir.
your clients paying for services when they come and have Afram Tech help
They
them with?
need to, but no.
They're not. Okay.
They do just like the guy you are paying $300. Well, sometimes we give them some ice cream. Sometimes we go to Food Line or Uber Less or whatever it is, and buy. You know, you can buy those $2 pizzas and get some of those. Now, I don't want my hair practitioner to get on it, but we give them some skins and stuff like that. So they're okay with that. I mean. So, but that's what we do, because if you have a little food, people will come, but if not, they're not. So that's what we do. But now, one thing I need to clarify. Now, this invitation only on the target EIDL advance, by invitation only, they're only going to let you do $5 million. So that's a limit. That's why they have the, you have to have a claim number. We send people out to the office on Westgate for the SBA. Hey, you know what they do out there? It's kind of weird, but now the SBDC and the SBA is in the same office. So I went out there and said, well, what are y'all doing? Because it's supposed to be 2 funding sources. One of them is state and the other is federal. So, but they're right there in the same building. So sometimes we send people out there and see if the SBDC or the SBA can help get the bank statement, because you got to have 3 years of bank statement. And what they will do, when I say they, are referring to the SBA. Now, 90% of what they do in this is by email only. You got to have an email account. None of that stuff about doing this, do that. You got the email, and then they give you 5 months. If they stop processing your account in 5 months, they cancel it. If you give them the wrong number, account number from your bank, it's gonna go back and it'll take you another 6 months for them to reprocess that thing. So you have to be very careful
Excuse me.
in doing that.
Yes, Commissioner Gaines.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
please. Mr. Wright, I mean no disrespect. You know that.
Yes, ma'am.
But it would be very, very helpful to me, I don't know about the other commissioners, if you could sum up the major points that you'd like us to walk away with from your presentation this morning, and do it fairly succinctly, if you would. What are the major points you want us to keep in our heads from what you're telling us this morning? It's a lot of good information, and we will certainly sit down and read it and try to digest it. But it's very helpful if we walk away with certain points that you want us to focus on.
Well, the 3 points here would be, first of all,
Yes.
that we've assisted a lot of people without any help, 2,500. And it put about $20 million into the economy locally that heretofore would not have been there.
Okay.
And you have all these organizations that you're throwing money at, and not one of them can come over here and say anything, but we're going to. That's the first thing.
Okay.
All right, the second thing is discrimination is significant throughout all the landscape. That's why we showed you that issue with the Chinese. And the other thing you have to understand about the Executive Order 1395, there are 2 other groups. Now, if you have been looking at it, you would caught that. The 2 other groups that benefit from there, and I've been in the classroom 35 years, I always thought Hawaii was a state. You know they included the Hawaiians in there? In that 1395? It's in there. And the other group, they get that $45 million forever. That's what you got to say. This is a trust forever. Hawaiians get it, and Pacific Islanders get it. That's the other thing I want you to understand. Discrimination is rampant and it's systemic.
Right.
The third thing is that this program that we're doing now, again, without any help from you or any other organization. Now, we have not asked for any help. The EIDL is by invitation only, so if you know persons who can meet the attributes that we provided for you, those are the only ones who can qualify. First of all, you got to have a claim number. You got to have a business, and you got to have 3 years of records, and that can also fill over to both before and after. The year they typically want will be 2018, 2019, and 20, but it takes the Internal Revenue Service about 9 months from the end of the tax filing year, which is October 15th. Because the IRS is so huge, it takes 9 months for each year's data to actually get into the system. So if you go and ask for a transcript for 4506T, it will be available. The latest data you can get from the IRS now, when you actually transcript, is on 2019. Because they're not going to have the data from 2020 until, so most times the SBA will say, well, give us your 2017, 2016 information. These things are important to know that that's how it works. So when people come back frustrated, just like you all throw me a curveball, you know, I can play ball. I may not be good with
Okay,
a
well,
baby,
that was very helpful, Mr. Wright.
Yeah, so that's what it was about.
Okay, well,
again,
we do need to be able to walk away with certain points.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've summed that up very well, and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Thank you. And now again, we're coming back on August 30th. If Jesus alive, I've learned lately that people ask me to run for mayor, and I'm thinking about that. Ask me to run for chairman of the Doherty County Commission.
Please do.
And I'm thinking about that. But then if I win one other position, I cannot come over here and tell you all anything, because I'll be talking to myself. So thank you.
Understood. All right, thank you very much. All right. Any other delegations that did not previously sign up that wish to be heard at this time? All right, let's move on with the zoning public hearings. Those wishing to speak on these matters have already signed up. Let's start with the first one. Rupesh Rajkaran and Gupta Priyanka and et al. Owner and Terramore Development LLC applicant request to rezone 1.909 acres from C7 mixed use planned development district to C2 general mixed use business district. The property is located at the southeast corner of Gillianville and Lockett Station. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Mr. Forgy, Development Services Director, Angel Gray, Planning Manager will address. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner,
Good morning.
Chairman. We're going to be talking about the southeast corner of Gilliamville and Lockett Station. That's going to be application number 21034, and it's a request for rezoning of 1.909 acres from a C7 to a C2. The total parcel is a 4.40 acre vacant lot. The property is located again at the southeast corner of Gilliamville and Lockett Station. The property is not located in a flood zone. You'll see here is the zoning area surrounded by C2, C7s, Ags, and R1 above to the north. Zoning history, we got Representative Kate Barkley versus Dardy County, Georgia, and the Board of Commissioners. The court ordered and adjudicated that the property be zoned Ag to C4, limited to C1 uses with a 50-foot visual buffer zone surrounding the south and east corner property line, and 25-foot setback from Lockett Station Road and Gilliamville Road for landscaping purposes. In 1994, the zoning classification or the definition of a C4 changed, resulting the property to be designated as a C7. Excuse me. This is the vacant lot photograph. This is to the north. It's a convenience store, gas station. This is the organic garden that was to the east. And this is to the west and also south west corner of Gilliamville and Lockett Station. Planning considerations, proposed use should be suitable for the adjacent land use. Proposed use is retail. A specific plan of development has been submitted and is proposed for a Dollar General retail store. Planning considerations again, proposed rezoning and use should not adversely affect the south, which is 5.8 acres of residential dwelling and zoned Ag. Developed vacant property to the west is zoned C7, and its previous use was for a convenience and gas station. Developed parcels to the north and northeast are zoned C2, and their uses are for commercial and retail. This is the current land use as it stands here, and we're, of course, wanting to rezone the 1.909 acres to applicant. Traffic impact, engineering department has requested that the applicant provide a traffic impact study prior to the construction. The location was considered a minor arterial urban road. The county history as of September 2019 estimated 3,925 trips per day. The proposal should not have additional impact on utility schools. The impact on the use of existing streets and transportation facilities will be mitigated by the traffic impact study. Road capacity, the average daily trip counts for Gilliamville Road is 6,800. Information is not available for the trip capacity. Generated trips resemble that of a retail convenience store. According to the trip generation, the land use could generate 762 daily, weekly trips. Designed properly, the proposal should not pose additional impact to the use of existing streets. No public transit routes are available at this location. Our future land use is consistent. It's for commercial. Future land use map is the proposed rezoning conforms with the future land use map. The future land use map provides for future as commercial use. The C2 designation meets the commercial need identified in the Comprehensive Plan 2026, and staff did not identify any additional existing changes or conditions to support the approval or disapproval of the rezoning application, and we do recommend approval to rezone to C2. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We have the public hearing portion of this matter. I note that for the record we have 6 folks that are signed up. First is Ed Collier, second is Katie Macon, 3 Chris Qualheim, 4 Josh Huffstetler, 5 Sam Sewell, and 6 Bruce Duthett. We're going to go in the order that these folks are listed. We'll begin with Mr. Collier. Good morning, Mr. Collier.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioner. Good morning. My name is Ed Collier. I represent Terramore Development. If I could, I'd like to just put something in the record that unfortunately we have to do on zoning matters and protect our client. Do that if I could. I want to be very candid with this board. My client applied for this C2 designation. It went through planning staff who recommended the approval. It went through the planning commission who recommended approval. There was not a single person to our knowledge that had any concern over this project until you met in a work session, and we got concerns that you were concerned. Perhaps, and I'm reaching out here to you actually to get some knowledge of what your concerns are, whether it be maintenance of Dollar General stores, whether it be concerns about how they're operated, perhaps not even happy with the foods or services that they provide. When we got word of that, that you were concerned, my client reached out to, I emailed all of you and wanted to let you know about the DG Fresh initiative that they were working on they're implementing it, and this store would be one as well that would offer more fresh foods and goods for the store. Commissioner Gray I reached out to Commissioner Gray. He was a personal friend of mine. I said, look, what are these concerns? I know that he was primarily the one that discussed it with the media, and we put him in touch with a Dollar General representative. I wanted them to talk with him directly. I sense today that there's still some reservations with this board, so I'm going to ask you something really odd as an applicant. I'm going to ask that you table it and let us come back to you, address each commissioner that has a concern, what those are, whether it needs to talk to my client with Terramore, wants to talk directly with Dollar General. And so when this matter comes as an action item, which I know will come later on in the agenda, I'm simply asking you to table it. I don't, if we're here before you today and you're concerned, then we don't want to push forward till we address those concerns. So unusual for an applicant to do that, but we just didn't know until last week when we read about it that there was a concern at all. We came through here. We've got representatives here with Terramore. They may want to discuss it even further. They certainly have the contacts with Dollar General. Commissioner Gray talked with Dollar General last week, but I know there's some concerns, and I would just rather address them on the front end. And so that's what we're going to ask you to do. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Collier. Next, I'm going to call on Katie Macon.
Katie, she's my court reporter. I had her. I don't think she wants to speak.
Okay. Good deal. Chris Qualheim. Okay. Josh Hufstetler. Good morning, Mr. Hufstetler.
Good morning. Thank you all for having me. Josh Hufstetler. I'm the Executive Vice President of Terramore Development. I think Ed laid it out as well as he possibly could, but I wanted you all to also hear it from me. The intent for us is to be able to take some time to address your concerns, but not only your concerns. I'm certainly an advocate for making sure that the surrounding community supports our project. So one of the things that I would love to do is hold a neighborhood meeting, bring in the community, anyone that's willing to attend. It could help or hurt us, but at the end of the day, it's the surrounding community that supports our stores and our developments, and that's very important to me. I want to be able to sleep at night knowing that what I do is an advantage to the community we serve. And so if y'all are, willing, we would love to table it to address those concerns. Community first and foremost, but also if you have any individual concerns, I am 100% willing and able to work with you on any of those. And I think ultimately, as a developer for Dollar General, we do have some issues. One of the things that I hate most is that when we turn a store over, sometimes the landscaping and maintenance is neglected. I am so honored to have worked with Dougherty County and some of your representatives, because I think the efforts made and the article has generated a lot of interest from our tenant, Dollar General. And I think ultimately Dougherty County is going to be a catalyst to help us combat some of those issues. We're working to create a direct line of communication so that if y'all have any particular store in this county, I think there's 16 with our tenant, Dollar General, if you have an issue, there will be a direct phone number that you can call. And if you don't get action, Commissioner Gray literally went to the top of the chain there. And he said, this is not something I typically deal with, but if this line of communication doesn't pan out, you contact me. And I can't tell you how proud I am to represent a tenant that's willing to go to that length to provide that service for Dougherty County. Not only that, I think it's important that we illustrate these new concepts to the surrounding community and what Dollar General is striving to achieve in terms of separating them from the pack. And what I mean by that is our competition, addressing food needs in food deserts, some of the healthy items that we're implementing, the health, basically it means to promote health within these communities. Some of the services that are provided. There's a lot of stuff that we want to put in front of the community so that ultimately we come back, and my plan, again, it could backfire, but my plan is to make your decision that much easier, knowing that we have the full support of our community. And so I just wanted you all to hear that from me personally. And thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, Sam Sewell. Okay, Bruce Duthett? Okay, all right. Anyone else that did not sign up that wishes to be heard on this matter? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Andrew a question, please?
Yes, please.
Ms. Gray, what does C7 actually allow for, the current zoning?
I wish I had it in front. Yes, mixed development, commercial and mixed development. So it would be for smaller commercial uses, not the retail type.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you very much. That's going to close that public hearing. We're going to move on to the next one. Southland Cypress LLC owner and Brenda Clark applicant request to rezone 62.538 acres from Ag Agricultural District to RE Estate District. The property address is 512 Flowing Well Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Ms. Gray. And I note for the record that no one signed up for this public hearing.
Chairman,
Yes,
Commissioners.
you go ahead.
This is application 21035, and the address is 512 Flowing Well Road. And it is 62.53 acres to be rezoned from Ag to RE. The RE, of course, is the estate district. The property is owner, as you said, Southland Cypress LLC, and Ms. Brenda Clark is the applicant. The property is not located in a flood zone. This is the area around, mostly ag. Zoning history shows that the 62.53 acre vacant lot, which there's also development there, has its original zoning designation. Based on reviewing the past zoning maps, the area was originally zoned ag when the city adopted the zoning 1970. The adjacent parcels to the north, south, east, and west all retain their original zoning designations. There are parcels within the area that have been rezoned, and these are not adjacent parcels, but the areas to the south and southeast along 8 Mile Road have rezonings from ag to C8, Commercial Recreation District, and ag to R2, Single Family, and ag to RMHSC, Mobile Home Single Family Residential District. Here you'll see those zonings to the south, southeast. Planning considerations. At the beginning, the applicant requested RG, and then upon discussion and evaluation with planning staff, it was agreed that the applicant would seek the RE designation, as it would be more restrictive to 10 acres and maintain the area's agricultural character while allowing subdivision of the properties for the residential use per the applicant's intent. Most of the adjacent properties, nearby properties, are used for agricultural use, and about 50% of those properties have single-family dwellings. The RE district, which is a state district, designation would result in a use more suitable to the area in view of the development of adjacent properties. The larger lots required RE would better preserve the rural character of the location. This is your current land use. As you'll see, it's larger lots and they're ag and residential use, agricultural use. Traffic impact, Flowing Well Road is a local road. The recommended RE designation should not have an additional impact on the use of existing streets, transportation facilities, and utilities or schools. General trips should resemble that of a 3 single-family residence. According to the trip generation, a single-family residence could generate 9 daily, weekday trips, and the rezoning could generate about 27 trips per day. Flowing Well Road, again being a local road, according to the fiscal year 2018-21 Transportation Improvement Program, the Dardy County Area Regional Transportation Study, which is DART 2045, no state or federal funded projects are proposed for this area. The Albany-Dardy Traffic Engineering Division, they do indicate that the property is not near a high accident location. Flowing Well Road, no public transit routes are available, no railroads, and staff did not identify any adverse traffic concerns related to the staff's recommended use. The recommended rezoning does not conform with the future land use map. The future land use map recommends agricultural forestry in this area, but the recommended RE estate district designation is inconsistent with the land use recommendation. However, the use for residential is allowed in the ag zone. The RE designation is more restrictive with 10-acre minimum lot size and is more suitable to the area land use. The RE designation allows for single-family dwellings and discourages any land use that would generate traffic on minor roads used to service residential traffic, which aligns with the 2026 plan. The recommended rezoning and RE would be more restrictive, again, to require 10 acres or more subdividing. The applicant's future intent is to subdivide the 64 acres into 3 lots of 20 acres or more per lot. Planning recommendations is to approve the rezoning from the subject agriculture district to RE for the county only. Thank you.
All right. Anyone that did not previously sign up but wishes to be heard in the public hearing on this matter? Okay. Any questions for Ms. Graham? All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's see. Grady Blairstone, owner and Metro Site LLC applicant, requests special approval to construct a new telecommunications tower with a total overall height of facility of 315 feet in the C3 Commercial District and C8 Commercial Recreation District. The property is approximately 20.82 acres, and the property address is 2700 Liberty Expressway. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Okay, Ms. Gray.
Chairman, Commission, this is application 21036. This is special approval again of 2700 Liberty Expressway. As you'll see the zoning map here, the future land use is for low density residential area. The application 2106, applicant requests special approval, of course, to construct the telecommunications tower of 350 feet in the C3 commercial district. Again, to remind you that the C8 is added there because of part of the 100 by 100 and the fencing may encroach the C8. The tower itself will be built in the C3 commercial district. The property is approximately 20.82 acres and the property address again is 2700 Liberty Expressway. Property owner Grady Stone and our applicant is Metro Site LLC. The property is located within the flood zone and the project would be required to comply with the floodplain management ordinances of Dardy County. Again, this is a location map with the zoning, with the floodplain overlay. The criteria for special approval, the zoning ordinance recommends that the consideration of the following factors for special approval, which is transportation network, trip generation. Following the initial construction phase, personnel will be on site 12 days per year, and that would be for routine maintenance. Road improvements, according to the FY 2018-21 Transportation Improvement Program, and DARTS 2040 for the Albany Dardy metro area. No state or federally funded projects are proposed for this area. Road classifications, the street to provide access to the subject property is off of Hancock, which is a south access, and it's classified as a rural local road. Accident information for the Albany-Doherty County Traffic Engineering indicates that the property is not near a high accident location. And in our analysis, no adverse impact to the surrounding transportation network should result for the proposed use. Off-street parking facilities is another one of those criteria. No parking is required for this facility. There is parking provided, however, on the compound for the tower, which is adequate for the traffic that the tower will generate. The number, size, and type of signs proposed. Signage will be limited to site identification sign as required by the Federal Communications Commission, and signs must comply with the Dougherty County sign ordinance. The amount and location of open space, approximately 0.2229 acres of the 20.82 acre will be dedicated to this project. This represents about 1% of the tract, and the remainder will remain as open space. There will be protective screening. The applicant states that there will be a 6-foot chain link fence, 80 by 80 foot, surrounding the tower site, as well as landscaping required by the Dardy County Commission. Outdoor lighting will be provided as required by the FCC, the FAA, and other state and federal agencies. The proposed use is suitable for the adjacent land use in the south and the east of the property. The area is predominantly vacant woodland. The future land use map recommends that the subject property and adjacent area continue as agricultural forestry. This is site location photographs. There at the corner of Hancock and Liberty Expressway. This is a diagram that was part of their site plan and information that come along with their application. The tower installation information. Again, another location map that shows the current use. You'll notice it's mostly woodland, pecan groves, and there is an RV park there to the east of the site, proposed site. Another location map to show its potential correspondence, but it's more or less it's all in the C3 area except for the fencing there could go into the C8. Nearby towers. There's 3 nearby towers. The proposed setback of 229.7 feet requires a variance granted by the Planning Commission. A variance application has been submitted for a special approval. They can't submit the application for the variance until their special approval is approved by the County Commission. The area is predominantly vacant woodland located in the special flood hazard area. The Dardy County Flood Ordinance requires the mechanical equipment be elevated at least 3 feet above the base flood elevation, which is more restrictive than the 1-foot requirement for the FCC regulations. The applicant states again that there will be a 6-foot chain link fence, which will be 80 by 80, surrounding the tower site, as well as landscaping required by the Dougherty County Commission. Now, Title III, Section 1.41C, 9A requires an evergreen hedge which shall be a minimum of 5 feet in the height within 3 years. In lieu of these standards, however, for certain locations, there's visual impact of the tower would be minimal, such as remote agricultural and remote locations. The landscaping requirements may be reduced or waived by the County Commission. Planning Commission's recommendations is to recommend approval. The recommendations are on the condition that the requirements of the Dougherty County flood ordinances are met. Thank you.
All right, we'll open the public hearing. The first person we have signed up is Andy Rottenstrike. Morning.
Good morning. My name's Andy Rottenstrike. Excuse me, I'm going to remove this. That's okay. Here on behalf of Metro Site, who is looking to construct this tower for AT&T. So we're basically looking to get better coverage in Mr. Jones's district in the southern part of the county along Liberty Expressway. We've got a significant gap in coverage, and we're trying to fill that. As always, we look to co-locate on existing towers, but as Angel pointed out, the closest tower is over 2.5 miles away. AT&T is actually already on that tower, so that's the closest tower, and AT&T's antennas are on there, still not able to get the signal in the area we're trying to cover, which is to get better coverage along that section of Liberty Expressway and down the southern part of the county. With no options to co-locate, our only option was to come back and request a new tower. We're going to build the tower strong enough to handle more than AT&T's equipment, so it'll be available for Verizon, T-Mobile, Dish, whoever needs to put their antennas on it, so they won't need to build another one right next to it. So with that said, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rotenstrike.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has signed up? I had a note that Dr. Green had signed up, and that was marked out. I think she meant to sign up.
That
for
was
that.
an error, sir. She marked it.
Is that what the notation says, error?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. All right. That public hearing is now closed. Apparently today is zoning day. Proposed text amendment to the Dardy County Solar Ordinance, Title III, Article 1, Section 1.443, Definitions 7, Specific Requirements for Solar Energy Systems, A1 and 8, Solar Facilities, Paragraph E. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Mr. Forgy.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. This change was recommended by the County Commission to the Planning Commission for study. The Planning Commission with staff recommends 3 minor changes. The first one is a minor edit. The second one would be to allow solar panels on street-facing roofs, which is currently permitted in the city, and to allow fencing to be 6 feet with barbed wire, which is a standard that meets the National Electric Code. So the first one is a very minor change. My title used to be Director of Planning, Development Services, and Code Enforcement. Code Enforcement was moved to be its own department, so just striking Code Enforcement from my title. The second change is allowing solar panels on the fronts of houses. So in this picture, you can obviously see the panels on the front of the house. This is not allowed in the county currently, which the staff and Planning Commission felt was unfair to one half of the street or one half of the subdivision, where people could have panels on the rear of their house. Depending on which direction the panels are facing, they're more productive. If they're facing south, they're more productive. So if you have the rear of your house facing south currently, you could have panels there. But if the front of your house faces south, you couldn't. We felt that was unfair, and it's allowed in the city. The panels are not the most attractive thing, in my opinion, but I think they'll be like cell towers that we used to see, but now we just want them there because they provide coverage for us. This does not really apply to the county, but in the historic district, they will still be governed by the Historic Preservation Commission. So the historic district could prevent solar panels, but in the unincorporated county, there are no historic districts designated currently. The third change is the recommendation of changing the allowable fencing around solar facilities. Currently, the only allowable fencing around a facility is an 8-foot high chain link fence. The National Electric Code around solar facilities allows a 6-foot high fence with a foot of barbed wire at the top. Some facilities would prefer to have the security of the barbed wire. Some may prefer to have 8 feet of fence. We felt this is a reasonable change to allow, since it is already allowed by the National Electric Code. And those are the only 3, this is an example of the barbed wire. Those are the only 3 changes recommended, if you have any questions.
All right, any comments or questions? All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I'll open the public hearing on that matter. Anyone that wishes to be heard? Okay, close the public hearing. All the public hearings are closed in the zoning section of paragraph 8. We're now going to move on to purchases and then additional business. And before I do that, I want to ask a quick question of Attorney Lee. Mr. Lee, with respect to a zoning application, if I remember correctly, the county commission has is it 90 or 180 days that they have to either vote it up or vote it down?
Maybe we ought to let Paul answer that. I'm not certain of the days. I could go back and look at it, but I think Paul knows.
Okay, Mr. Forkey?
I believe it's 70 days from the public hearing. But if the applicant has to table it, if they're in agreement to tabling it, that stops that clock.
Say it again, Mr. Ward.
If the applicant has suggested to table it and they're in agreement with you all tabling it, that would stop that clock.
So you wouldn't go
Give me 1
70 days
second.
after you table it, would your 70 days start then, or it just void it out?
It pauses it.
It would pause it, and I think it would be.
It tolls the 70 days.
Pardon?
It tolls.
Yes.
Okay. Is Mr. Collier still present? Mr. Collier, I totally understand and appreciate that you had to preserve certain issues on behalf of your client. And I also understand the request that's been made. As part of the record, could you submit a letter that formally requests the tabling? I'd like to have that in the record as part of the minutes. And I just want to make sure that what's in writing is consistent. We'll certainly do that. Thank you very much, Mr. Collier. All right, that answers my questions on those matters. Let's move forward and get some business done.
I do have a question.
Commissioner Gaines, yes?
What's the difference between tabling and withdrawing?
What would you consider to be the difference, Commissioner Gaines?
They can come back in 30 days and untable it.
My concern, Mr. Chairman, is if we withdrew the application, we would have to go back through the Zoning Procedures Act again, which would be a two-level.
I understand. All right. Let's move on to purchases. Consider for action the acceptance of the proposal for professional services for the survey and design of Fleming Road widening Phase 3 for the Public Works Department for the lowest quoted vendor, Reliable Engineering, LLC, out of Albany, Georgia, in the amount of $69,000. Funding is budgeted in T-SPLOST road projects. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consider for action the purchase of 20 sirens for use by the Dardy County Emergency Management Agency for the most responsible proposer. Sirens for Cities, Inc. out of Jonesboro, Georgia, in the amount of $519,892.40. Funding is budgeted in the Hazardous Mitigation Grant Program, HMGP, for $750,000. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
From now on, if I would like to ask the county administrator, when we're doing these presentations, let me know that it's going to be a dollar amount attached to it before. Because I was, when the chief did the presentation last week, then we got to the end of the agenda, and that's when we start talking about the finances. I want to know about the finances in the beginning.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I got a couple of questions I want to ask. I don't know who I'd address it to, but I understand that this $500-something thousand, it was actually a proposal that was $100,000 less than that.
Okay.
And I just wanted to get some clarification as to why that was not, what was the problem? Did this $100,000 less proposal, did it meet a spec or didn't meet a spec, or I just wanted some clarification.
I think that's a very fair question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposal was rated based on at least 5 criteria. I'm not sure if I have our purchasing department here, but there were 5 criteria that this bid was, or the proposers were rated on, And obviously, this firm that you're speaking of was not rated the highest, nor recommended.
What was that last part, Mr. McCoy? I didn't hear.
They were not rated the highest, nor recommended.
Do we know where their downfall was in the rating process?
I do not.
Okay.
Which company is it?
I would certainly like to know that.
Yeah, I think,
I mean, it's only fair for these vendors that do this stuff to know where they're, where they're.
I understand, and let me ask this question to Commissioner Edwards's and Commissioner Newsom's questions, and I did not catch that, what Commissioner Edwards had pointed out. I thought that there was a dollar amount attached to the work session discussion. I could be wrong, but I don't remember, and I'm not arguing. I just
It was at the end of the presentation. When they did the presentation, I would have mentioned that it was going to be a dollar amount. We gave all these praises, and then at the end of our meeting, we had, okay, it was going to be some matching funds. I would like to have known that in the beginning.
May I come in?
So I will, we will provide that information. So anytime we're dealing with these federal grant projects, know that the federal government pays 75%, and the non-federal match is 25%. And the local match is typically around 15%. So that's the case. We'll be coming before you with probably more federal grant opportunities associated with FEMA, and the county has skin in the game. We're required to contribute at least 15%.
let me ask this question. These HMGP funds, are these flowing in from the $64.9 million that we advocated for and got a large portion of as a result of the 2017 disasters?
This is a separate pot of money.
Okay, just overall. And that comes from GEMA?
This came from FEMA, and this particular one was associated actually with Hurricane Matthew.
There is no rhyme or reason, is there?
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on a sec. Hurricane Matthew landed where?
Yeah, on the East Coast.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah. Savannah.
It's fascinating.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You know, we need these sirens out in the unincorporated area, so what is the most painless way for us to get Commissioner Newsom and Commissioner Edwards satisfied with the information that is necessary to satisfy them so we can move this ball forward?
I agree. Let me ask this question. Mr. McCoy, is there any sense of urgency that would be violated if we moved this to another meeting and got that information in the interim?
Sure, we can give an explanation and have this on the next agenda, but it is a RFP. We do these from time to time.
Sure.
And it's not based on the lowest bidder meeting.
I understand. I think what I'm sensing from the commission is we want to get a better handle on that information. We're not passing judgment at all, but we do want to make sure that everyone has the appropriate information, especially associated with a little over $500,000 expenditure, even though a large component of those funds are not our funds, but it is important.
We'll have a meeting on the 30th, and we'll have a special call meeting.
So,
no problem.
Yes, Commissioner Edwards, did you have?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with doing the purchase. I just want, from now on, I want, when we do those presentations with the money, just let me know that amount in the beginning. I don't have no problem with the siren. I mean, I'm okay with it. I just want it in that package. Just let me know I'm gonna have to pay for something. Don't wait till the end. See, we said thank you, appreciate you. They had nice little signs. Then at the end of the meeting, they said we got to give $135,000. But he should have said that in the beginning. Then I don't ask questions if I ain't got to spend no money. Go ahead.
So to Commissioner Edwards' point, if I may interject something else, we were praising the storm-ready community part of it, and it was kind of like a trigger because I think because we purchased the sirens, or we were going to purchase the sirens, that was a part of us becoming storm ready, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we were praising them for getting that certification in one hand, but then having to cobble some money, as he's saying now, on the latter side. So he wanted to know about the money up front before we started clapping to being a storm ready community.
This is the best money that we can, this is the best money that can be spent here, though.
Yeah, I understand. All right, well,
Mr. Chair.
So I'm for it, we don't have to,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I understand. Commissioner Newsom?
To Commissioner Jones's point, I don't have any problem whatsoever. I just think that in these processes, when we've got discrepancies in this, that the vendors, get a idea of where their downfall was or why they were not considered or those kind of things. I'm perfectly fine with this. I think, matter of fact, I'm quite surprised we hadn't had this a long time ago. It really surprised me that we didn't have it in the unincorporated counties. So I'm perfectly happy to go ahead and move with it.
Okay.
But I think in the future, when we're asking folks to spend time to process the bid and all that stuff, that they get the feedback information that they need so they can understand.
Understood. Commissioner Johnson.
Mr. McCoy, I see on the evaluation that being a minority women business enterprise was part of the criteria, and HQE was the only one that had the MWBE status.
Yes, sir, that is true. Yeah, that is true. And I'm glad you pointed that out, and I was taking a look at that as well.
Because with federal funds, that is a part of the requirement, isn't it?
Yes, sir, that was an evaluation criteria. So if you will take a look at page 89, it does show the rankings and the scoring for each proposer. Sirens for cities scored 85.5, and American Signal 80.2, HQE 77.6, and Mobile Communications 74.3.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask for a motion. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. Was that one no?
No, I didn't say abstain.
Okay.
I had nobody opposed it.
Okay. All right. That motion carries unanimously. Consider for action the resolution providing for the approval of the 2021 millage rates for the countywide general fund, special services district fund, Dardy County School System, and the state of Georgia. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. All right. Vote passes 6-1. Note for the record that Commissioner Gaines voted against that. All right. Recommendation to accept the 5-year update to the 2026 Albany Dardy Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Forgy and Development Services Director are present to address. Action on this item is scheduled for a special call meeting on August 30th, 2021. Mr. Forgy.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the 5-year update of the 2026 Albany Doherty Comprehensive Plan. Every 5 years, it's required to check in on the plan and look at a few different sections. In the past, the majority of the work was updating the community work program, which is a 5-year strategy of things that the governments intend on taking, actions that they intend on taking over the coming 5 years. So it's required that we do a report of accomplishments on how you did on those items over the last 5 years and a new community work program to show what you're going to do for the next 5 years. There's been an addition to the requirements. In 2018, the state changed the planning rules to require that all local governments put in a broadband element in their comp plans. So there's also an amendment, a section that I sent you all, that creates a broadband section. The point of it is to look at unserved and underserved parts of the community to develop a strategy to provide broadband or make it easier to provide broadband in those areas. There's also an update of your needs and opportunities, and those were sent to you. Now, we will be having another public hearing next week in this room at 5:30 in the evening on August 23rd. So that's another opportunity for the public to give us any comments on this. And if you all have any comments or input on what you were sent, we'll take that as well now or anytime in the next week or the next 2 weeks, really, before we come to you again for approval in I guess, 2 weeks.
All right, thank you. Any comments, questions? No action for us today. All right, let me move on. Consider for action the zoning consideration of Rupesh Rajkaran and Gupta Priyanka and et al., owner and Terramore Development LLC, applicant request to rezone 1.909 acres from C7 mixed use to planned development district to C2 general mixed use business district. The property is located at the southeast corner of Gillionville and Lockett Station. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Is there a motion to table at this time?
Motion to deny.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Okay, I'm going to introduce a motion to table the matter and ask if there's a second. Motion to table fails. Let's vote on the motion to deny. We'll proceed with a roll call vote. Commissioner Newsom, how do you vote, for or against the motion to deny? I'm sorry?
Say it again.
Do you vote for or against the motion to deny?
I vote to deny.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, how do you vote?
Deny.
Commissioner Johnson?
Deny, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Jones?
Deny.
Okay. Commissioner Gaines?
Deny.
Commissioner Gray?
Deny.
Okay. Chairman votes to deny. That matter is closed. That application is denied. We now move on to consider for action the zoning consideration of Southland Cypress LLC, owner, and Brenda Clark, applicant, request to rezone 62.538 acres from Ag Agricultural District to RE Estate District. The property address is 512 Flowing Well Road. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consider for action the zoning consideration of Grady Blair Stone, owner, and Metro Site LLC, applicant, request special approval to construct a new telecommunications tower with a total overall height of facility 315 feet in the C3 Commercial District and C8 Commercial Recreation District. The property is approximately 20.82 acres, and the property address is 2700 Liberty Expressway. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consider for action the resolution providing for the amendment of the Dardy County Solar Ordinance, Title 3, Article 1, Section 1.44, Paragraph 3, Definition 7, Specific Requirements for Solar Energy Systems, A1 and 8, Solar Facilities E. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consider for action the authorization of an incentive payment of $300 for each fully vaccinated employee. Proof of vaccination will be required. Funding is available through ARPA, as this is an eligible expense and addresses the spread of COVID-19. Mr. McCoy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're making this recommendation in reaction to some data that we received last week. You should have that in a handout. You'll see that we have 79 fully vaccinated folks, but only 68 of those are employees. And we have about 650 employees with only 68 fully vaccinated. And we were on a webinar with NACO last week, and this incentive program was recommended, and we are coming before you today with this recommendation to hopefully improve, definitely incentivize our employees to become vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And this will not penalize those people who were vaccinated prior to us bringing this to you today. They will be eligible as well. And from a cost-benefit analysis, this program would cost $195,000, assuming 650 employees at $300. And to date, we've spent over $1.1 million in COVID claims alone in our health plan. If you'll remember last fiscal year, we spent several $1 million on COVID claims. This doesn't include the recent hospitalizations that we've experienced. We haven't gotten those claims in yet, but we know that our COVID costs are continuing to climb, and this will be a opportunity for us to help mitigate the increased costs in our health plan related to COVID claims if we are able to get more folks vaccinated.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion?
Yes, sir. Mr. McCoy, will we get some kind of incentive from my insurance company for this? Will they lower our cost anywhere?
Unfortunately, this will help to we hope that it will help to lower or minimize our costs relative to COVID-19 claims. We have a self-funded plan, and unfortunately we can't always predict, although we do our best, and you will hear on the 30th from our plan consultant about how our plan is performing, what our costs are. They're continuing to escalate as they are for every other insurance provider, but we're doing all that we can to minimize costs.
I think, Commissioner Johnson, I understand where you were headed. I think what Mr. McCoy is saying is that the savings that we will realize will not necessarily be in the form of an incentive from the health insurer, but it will be in reduction in the real costs of our self-funded component of our health plan. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
And just to add, and just kind of a note for the public too, by the time you start your vaccination regimen, it's over a month before it reaches its full clinical protection. And so if we incentivize people today and they do it, it mitigates our risk of catastrophic outcomes down the road. There could still be hospitalizations, but fewer funerals. That's a really good thing. And on top of that, if we wait for the government or payers to incent individuals to do it through their plan design, that may be a year before they decide to kind of push benefit back down through their processes.
I would like to add that this is non-tax dollars coming from ARP, so it's not costing local taxpayers any money. And so that's a good thing, and it's definitely a cost savings because otherwise the $195 will come from the general fund.
Understood. Thank you, and thank you all for the thoughtful questions. Call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consider for action the resolution providing for a moratorium on wind energy generation facilities, otherwise known as wind farms. The purpose would be to temporarily restrict their development within the unincorporated county until a study can be conducted and an ordinance developed to regulate the placement of such facilities appropriately. Mr. Forgy.
Good morning again. This is a request to implement a moratorium on permitting any type of forwarding of wind power generation facilities. This is it's a growing technology, and we don't have any regulations for it, and we feel that it would be a good idea to put something in place before we are approached by someone who wants to put a facility in the county to make sure that the county gets what it would like and it can regulate these things appropriately. I do believe that you all have an example or a moratorium that the county attorney drew up. Over the weekend, we were working with the firm of Jenkins & Bowen, which is a land use attorney or specializes in land use issues. And just this morning, I received a moratorium from them as an example. And I don't know what the procedure is, but I do want to point out that the moratorium does need to have a sunset date in it. So either the one that you have in front of you or the other one. The other one has a 4-month sunset. I would suggest that would be a good date to go for, giving us enough time to develop a a draft ordinance and to get it in front of the Planning Commission and the public to get their input, if you have any questions.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution providing for a 4-month moratorium on wind energy generation facilities?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. McCoy.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder that we will not have a meeting next Monday, August 23rd, as a result of having 5 Mondays in this month.
Mr. Lee.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Gaines.
Nothing, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Newsom.
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As you all know, I attended the National Association of County Commissioners meeting that was, I can say it now, I said, when I was getting ready to go, I said Clark County, Nevada, but I'm going to say Las Vegas because I've been and come back. So, but I want to share with you, to the fruit of my labor out there, a letter from the NACO president, Larry Johnson, who is the person that we went out to get on the board. Now he's the national president, but as national president, I want to share with you what I received over the weekend, which was good news. It says, as president of the National Association of Counties, NACO, it is my pleasure to appoint you to these committees, the Membership Standing Committee and the Member Committee, and it reads as follows. He says, you are chosen because my goal is to build a talented and committed leadership team for NACO. Our strength at NACO is in our members and their involvement, emerging from the last year of challenges, uncertainty, and in many cases, tragedy. We are ready to thrive. My presidential initiative will highlight your service and the important work of your committees in these realms: technology, health readiness, infrastructure, vulnerable population, and economic opportunities. I am counting on you to advance my initiative to make life better for all those we serve. Your NACO committee staff liaison will follow up with you and provide specific details on the committee's work and the future meeting dates, such as the NACO Legislative Conference in February 12th through 16, 22 in Washington, D.C. And it just says, I look forward to working with you with respect. Larry Johnson, who's our Georgia representative on the NACO, at NACO, and he's the president.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Jones, and thank you for your service, and congratulations on your acknowledgement and your work on our behalf. We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Very much so. Anything else, Commissioner Jones?
That's it, sir.
Okay, very well. I'm trying to think about Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, one thing, Mr. Chairman. I just want to rewind back a couple of weeks ago when Mrs. Robertson came before us in reference to the screening when you're going across the street. I think this week, we have some other issues. And I guess what I want us to do, I guess Mr. McCoy had addressed that already, and I did get a response back from the sheriff was saying, I guess the building is ADA in compliance, which is the Disability Act. But the Disability Act also, I think, goes around being just common courtesy again. And I guess as one commissioner, I would like to see why does the ladies have to take off their jewelry, their bracelets, and I'm saying that because I think it also may have an adverse effect on, because people come into the courthouse for jury duty, so they'll actually come. So again, the sheriff's responsibility is bailiffs, serve warrants, and custody of the jail. And
custody of the courthouse too.
Well, we own the courthouse. We can contract the services out to a private services for the interest of the courthouse now. And I get, I'm sure of that. So again, that's the 3 areas that he has to serve. But now again, we asked last week to speak to the sheriff about the common courtesy. So the common courtesy is, and I think going back to that, even me, I had my hips replaced maybe 15, 20 years ago. And when I go through, I give them a card stating that I had a hip replacement. So if I gave you a card and you still saying, well, let me check your belt, let me check the bottom of your shoes, and I'm really after the delivery of when whoever entered that building. That building is, you know, all the citizens, and you coming there, and like I said, to serve on the jury, you come in there to maybe go to the coroner's office, title searches. So you cannot tell me the common courtesy. I've actually been a resident of a facility, and I've been a visitor. So even in my time, it still was common courtesy when I went in that building. So again, we've asked the sheriff, I guess, to address that, and even down to last week, people still being, because if this building where we're sitting here, you have one lady, that's Miss Buckley standing outside. So you can leave that judicial building and come over here. So you was not that big of a threat to me when you got Miss Buckley sitting out there being the security for this building. So I'm asking you as the chairman to again direct or speak to the sheriff whether we need some training classes, and the same lady that Ms. Robinson spoke of 2 weeks ago was the same lady the person had problems with last Thursday. Now I understand this person come from what we call a correction facility, but it's 2 different clienteles. So again, we should not really have to have this discussion, because when people come in that building, it should be a mirror of the sheriff personality. It should be a mirror of Deputy Hayes' personality and Ms. Johnson. And ultimately, it should be a mirror of this county commission. And no matter what, even when we have people come before us, it's always going to be respect, like you always do. And I just cannot see why. I understand that the answer was, I guess Mr. McCoy responded back that the screening machine is down. And it should be back in about 6 weeks, like the screening that you put your purses and stuff in. So we've ordered that, but even that's not the thing. The thing is common courtesy. If you ask a lady to take off her jewelry, and then the lady said, well, hey, can I put it back on? And you tell her, I can't put it back on. But I just can't see where all of those officers over there, when you know people coming for jury duty, those kind of things, is not a threat. That's pretty much.
I think I understand the concern. I'm happy to address it. I also, I'd say I have 2 different perspectives. And one is born from being a former prosecutor and having friends and knowing a judge that one of the first judges I ever appeared in front of got murdered by Brian Nichols. Now, obviously, he was an inmate, but it happened in the courthouse. And so I have mixed thoughts and mixed feelings, because I knew a lot of people that were at that courthouse that day years ago. And actually, the very first judge that I ever appeared in front of was one of the ones that was actually murdered. And that's not to say that anybody that's going in and out is everyone doing anything like that, but there is a delicate balance that has to be struck between what is the sheriff's expertise on security and making sure that everyone is kept safe in a very large building with a lot of people that are coming and going. I think your points about common courtesy are well taken, and I'm happy to go and have that discussion and to facilitate discussions outside of a public meeting as well, because I think ultimately what everybody wants is a better service, and that's what I'm hearing you say from your heart, and I'm happy to facilitate those discussions, if that makes sense, Commissioner Evans.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner Johnson.
Nothing further other than continue praying for Commissioner Gaines and her family. She deals with her brother.
Absolutely. And Commissioner Gray.
Just one thing I would really like to ask the citizens of Albany and Dardy County, quit throwing trash out your windows when you're driving down the road. We know we have a trash problem in this community. There's a trash can at every service station. You don't have to buy anything and pull up and clean your entire car out right there. But find a trash can, please. Driving down the road at 40 miles an hour is no place to throw a bag of fast food trash out. And I tell you, citizens are getting really upset about it. They're starting to pick that trash up. They're starting to take names. They're starting to document tag numbers. And I will work with the law enforcement with every bit of power and energy I have to find some way to issue a citation to people if a witness can bear a sworn affidavit that this happened. If we can give tickets in school zones based on a camera and a radar, we can take a citizen's affidavit that somebody doesn't care about this community, and I will find a way to make sure you get a ticket for it. It has to stop.
Well said, well said.
Is there something they can go to that website, that citizen complaint site that we talked about, how it's producing? Where you can,
I don't know that that's up and running yet.
Yeah, make complaints and maybe upload pictures or something.
But I don't know that there's a formal channel that is legally compliant for citizens to make those complaints. But if enough noise gets in the ear of law enforcement and community leaders, I would hope that they would hear the citizens' complaints, and especially if they're coming with valid cases. We've done all the work. All I need you to do is go issue a ticket, or at least a warning, because people are going to get tired of having a police officer show up at their door.
Did I get everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I rarely do this, but I have some thoughts and comments I want to share today. I've watched this community go through 4 presidentially declared natural disasters, do a very good job. I've watched us be faced with the pandemic in terms of being number 3 in the world. This commission and myself and other people have spent countless hours fighting for, advocating for resources that this community would have not otherwise gotten in order to face tornadoes, hurricanes, wind events, and the pandemic. At one point, we literally had to order a mobile morgue to stack the dead bodies of the people that were dying from COVID-19 in, because we did not have enough room for our citizens. For us, and then we advocated for a vaccine center, which we got for a while from the state. We have tremendous amounts of access to vaccines here in the community. Every Wednesday, I have a phone call along with the mayor, healthcare professionals, Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital, private healthcare professionals, the Dougherty County EMS, the Sheriff's Department, Police Department, military base, Chamber of Commerce, and numerous other, Albany State University, Albany Technical College, all the major community stakeholders that touch our citizens, our students, our children, our people. And we've done a lot of good work to bring a lot of resources to this community. We've also had a long time, I've had a decent amount of time to sort through the information that relates to the vaccine, whether it's good, whether it's bad. And I've said this at press conferences before. There's, when we were doing vaccines at Phoebe Putney Memorial, over at Phoebe Health Works, there's a guy from Dardy County EMS that got up every single day, put his boots on, walked over there, and his job was to make sure that nobody fell out after taking the vaccination. I'm also familiar with the fact that there's a tremendous amount of disinformation and misinformation that gets put out in the wake of any disaster, and there are a variety of people that just, frankly, enjoy getting attention like teenage children by putting out misinformation from the disaster pain of other folks, and they don't actually produce anything positive in this world other than drama and chaos. It is absolutely, and I say all that as background to this. Not one person's ever fallen out after getting a vaccine over at Phoebe Health Works, or that I know of, at any of these other places. The information that I get, and I ask hard questions, and I say this because, like, I've had to have hard conversations with my own family members. The reality is that the risks associated with the vaccine are infinitesimal in comparison to the risks to our community by not being vaccinated. If you compare us to other areas, like if you look at Vermont, where they, several weeks ago, they were over 64% vaccinated, and their hospitals were largely empty. They were going about their normal everyday lives. People weren't falling out. No one grew a third eyeball. And the fact of the matter is that it has largely arrested the development of the virus. And I keep saying this to challenge people and challenge our citizens to think outside of, and I think there's a natural inclination for every human being to have certain self-centered tendencies in terms of their own health care, which is absolutely, completely correct and fine. But this is not just an issue. Sometimes you can throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the reality is this. Here's what we're seeing. Over 90% of our senior citizens in this community have been vaccinated. That is a fact, period. Okay? So what are we seeing that's different? Less senior citizens are dying. Less senior citizens are ending up in the hospital. What are we seeing across the country and in this community? The virus has changed. It is literally an opportunistic being or an entity that has to find people to live inside. And so if you take away the marketplace of your weaker and more vulnerable and more older folks, the virus is going to change. That's what it does. No different than a kid who gets his hand smacked for sticking his hand into the cookie jar. He's going to find a different cookie jar. And the solution to this from a geographical standpoint, it's like this is a community problem, and we are behind the state average in getting vaccines. And I cannot wrap my mind around that. I cannot wrap my mind around the fact that our community ordered a mobile morgue to stack our dead people in, begged for resources, and now we're behind the state average in the vaccine? It is inexcusable to me. It is inexcusable, and it's unacceptable. Everyone has the right to make their own healthcare choices, and I get that. But like, as a whole and as a community, the fact that we have that level of apathy and that lack of care for ourselves and our community and those that we interact with, like, who wants to go to Publix every single day and have to wear masks and live in this, like, the only way that you act, I mean, it is literally our best tool. Day in, day out, I get the reports. About 90, like, there are some people that got vaccinated that still get the virus again. But the number of beds that they occupy at Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital and the number of those folks that are actually having a machine pump air into their lungs is far less than the number of people who are unvaccinated. And the facts are this. The average age of the person that is being carried in on a Dardy County EMS stretcher, being hauled into a room, an ICU at the COVID-19 unit at Phoebe, and that is having their lungs hooked up to a machine, the average age of that person is lower, their health outcomes are less than the person that is vaccinated, and their health outcomes are worse than what we were seeing before. This iteration of the virus is different. I'm telling you, you can talk to the people that are on the ground. Talk to the people that have Dardy County EMS. Talk to the people that work at Phoebe Putney. Like, talk to the people, the 4,000 people that work there. They are tired. They are exhausted. Our hospital is overrun. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again. This is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And ultimately, how we take, like, we have to think about ourselves as a collective body. And our collective refusal to vaccinate a large percentage of our citizens tells me, to a certain extent, that we don't always think a lot of ourselves. And you ever hear the joke about the guy that is on top of his roof when there's floods coming, and he believes that God's going to come and save him. The guy comes by on a boat to pick him up, says, you doing all right? Why don't you get in the boat? He says, no, God's going to save me. And then the helicopter comes and offers him a ride in the helicopter. He says, no, God's going to save me. And then he drowns, and he goes up to see God. He says, what happened? And God said, I sent you a helicopter and a boat, and you didn't take advantage. Right. By golly, we can sit here and continue to get information from people that don't have a medical degree, that sit and post on Facebook, that have never built anything in their lives. Or we can listen to learned doctors, professionals, and get quality information that impacts our community positive. We can actually just look at data, just like raw numbers. How are we doing in comparison to Vermont? I would give us an F. I would give Vermont an A. That's all I have. We're adjourned.